Hey there, my name is Trisha, and these are my friends, also my group mates, Fatty, Tisha, Mitch, and Gianna. This is our HIV project. It started when our professor gave us a project. We could choose any topic we wanted, but the concepts of citizenship or governance were supposed to be applicable. At first, we wanted unemployment, but eventually we realized that it's pretty boring. Then I saw this article on CNN about anonymous HIV testing. I immediately told the group, and unsurprisingly, they were all interested as well. So with our prof's approval, we decided on governance aspect because it made more sense. The anonymous testing was a program created by a government institution, the Department of Health, or simply DOH. So at that time, we thought we should be interviewing the head of the program at DOH, who is Dr. Bellimac. We wrote a letter with all of our objectives and everything, and we drove to DOH. After going through what seemed like a maze, we finally found Dr. Bellimac's office and handed over our letter. 2 working days later, Dr. B's assistant emailed Fatty, telling her that before any scheduling of interviews were to be done, she wanted to see our interview questions first. We all panicked because the assistant also said that she wouldn't be able to see the questions if we sent it tomorrow morning. So Fatty quickly came up with a bunch of questions and sent it to her the same day. But she didn't reply until 2 days later. She said that the nearest clinic with anonymous HIV testing was at the Manila Social Hygiene Clinic. We also needed another letter to interview them. Plus, Dr. B wasn't really available for an interview, and we found out through the head physician at the clinic, Dr. Diana Mendoza, or Dr. D, that Dr. B wasn't really her boss. We wasted a week waiting for DOH to reply when in reality, they never really had a say on anything. We quickly came up with a new letter, this time addressed to Benjamin Yison at the City Hall. We had our prof sign it and we rushed to the City Hall in hopes of getting this over with soon. When we got there, whoa, broken chandeliers, destroyed walls, old school windows, what the hell? Anyway, we got to Benjamin Yison's office after getting lost, only to be sent to another door to undergo a series of procedures, which included going through other doors to other offices, only to end up at the last door with a pissed-off looking secretary. We're going to refer to her as Roz because we don't really know her real name. Roz, looking immensely bored in her chair, read our letter once and immediately asked for our protocol. When she clarified that she meant a research outline, we told her we don't have any because Dr. D said we only needed a letter. She then asked us a bunch of unrelated questions and commented on unrelated matters. Oh gosh. She basically told us that for our letter to be approved, we needed a research outline. She said that once we submitted that, our letter would be approved and we could take it to the clinic already. It seemed like everything was going against us for this project. We are now forced to cram. The next day, we met up at McDonald's at around 8 a.m. and arrived at City Hall at 8:30 a.m. We went back to the office only to find that Roz wasn't there, but other secretaries were. However, instead of telling us the same thing Roz did yesterday, they spun a new tale. Apparently, the letter we gave yesterday was already forwarded to Dr. D at the clinic. Once she approves that, it would be sent back to the City Hall and we would have to go through a bunch of other procedures, and we also have to pay 200 pesos at some taxpayers' area. This was insane. It's like every time we go back to submit something, they require something new. But as soon as we got out, Fatty immediately said that we can just go to Dr. D at the clinic ourselves. She got to contact Dr. D directly. Yes! Finding the clinic was harder, but we eventually made it to the clinic nevertheless. We asked this woman where we could find Dr. D and she pointed us to the 2nd floor. We were shocked to find that it wasn't the cleanest place to be in. The windows were open, there were boxes everywhere, paint flecks were falling off the walls, and when we were climbing up the creaky stairs, there was even a cat on one of the boxes on the 2nd floor. We started guessing which room Dr. D was in when we suddenly bumped into her herself. She told us to go downstairs to Dr. Dennis Almonte, Dr. A. Dr. A gave us a lowdown on almost everything, from what MSM means, which is literally men who have sex with men, to why more of them get HIV, the differences between HIV and AIDS, our local LGBTQ community, the clinic's history, to explaining that male patients get male doctors and same goes for women and other members of the community. He explained that this was so that everybody would be more comfortable with each other. After our chat, we took a picture together and Dr. A left us to be with Dr. D. Okay, yes, finally, we sit down with Dr. Diana Mendoza. After so many obstacles, we are finally here in her office, ready with our questions. Then she begins by saying that the counseling for their patients is both for pre-test and post-test. She explains that the reason males get infected with HIV more than females is because when they have anal sex, the skin breaks because the anus isn't that lubricated compared to the vagina. The topic then veers into sex ed and she whips out dotted condoms, ones with Generica written on them, and lube. I was slightly nervous because I thought she would ask us to touch the lube and it really looked like hair gel. Then she opened one of the condoms and presented us with a penis ashtray and demonstrated how to put a condom on and how to remove it. It was a very educational moment. From sex ed to the clinic's history, we learned that Social Hygiene Clinic of Manila was actually the first, I guess, in Manila. It was also part of San Lazaro Hospital before. Dr. D also said that social hygiene clinics were originally intended for sex workers. Interesting. But moving on from that, Tisha asked if AIDS was a sure thing once one gets HIV. Dr. D explained further that once a person gets HIV, it attacks his immune system, rendering him powerless against other illnesses. And once those illnesses come, it's incurable, and those combinations are called AIDS. But, she said, once you catch HIV early, it is treatable by taking antiretroviral drugs. At least, right? Dr. D even says that some moms who are HIV positive can give birth to children who don't have the infection. So guys, better get tested! Nearing the end of our interview, we got freebies. Oh, well, they were just condoms, but still. Leaving the clinic, we were all beaming with joy because we actually did it! We were able to avoid corruption and interview her with a weekend left to do everything else. We don't know if those new secretaries were trying to con us into giving $200 just because we're from the South, but whatever the reason, they won't be seeing us again. Our journey was such an experience. We got to see for ourselves the governance relationship of the HIV clinics and the Department of Health. We can now analyze the entire system. No matter how hard it was to get here, all we can say is, yes!